to do is stay a minute, just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is stay.
The center for everything that is political and American. You're listening to the Garrison Douglas Show.
Welcome to the program, everybody. It's Friday, January 19th, and, the government shutdown is looming over, really the entire country. The last shutdown was in 2013 over the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans had shut down the government because they wanted Obamacare to be fully not repealed. Well, repealed would be the ideal situation for them at that time. But they wanted it to be defunded. They did not want to fund Obamacare. And that shutdown cost the U.S. economy about $24 billion and hundreds of thousands of jobs, at least according to Standard & Poor's report of that shutdown. So we're essentially running into a similar situation right now with this government shutdown, and I'll talk about it more later in the program, but we're going to keep an eye out during the broadcast for any changes. Most recently, it seems like Senator McConnell has set a vote for 10 o'clock p.m., so it'll be, of course, after the show, but it'll be 10 o'clock p.m. To vote on the House's the House bill's continuing resolution, the one that would essentially continue the funding of the government for a whole nother month. So they're setting to vote on that at 10 p.m. That's not more likely going to pass unless something else happens. That bill won't pass because the Democrats have already said they won't vote yay on that bill. But I'll keep you updated for any more changes. I have my little trusty countdown clock. If you're watching via video, I have my countdown clock showing, so you guys will be able to keep track of the countdown with me. But we're waiting for this midnight deadline to come up. But anyways, getting past that, today is a special day for a completely different reason. So let's get off the shutdown. Let's get that out of our minds for a little bit. We are exactly 1 day away from the anniversary of Donald Trump being sworn in as the 45th president of the United States. The anniversary is going to be, today is 364 days. Tomorrow will be 365 days that Trump, officially 1 year that President Trump has been president of these United States. So I felt it would only be, and of course he's going to do this on his own because he essentially has to at the State of the Union. But I feel like it's important for us to mark this occasion by looking back at some of the highlights. Look back and see exactly how President Trump did in his first full year in office. Now, I shared this at the very beginning of last year. Essentially, it was right after Trump became inaugurated. I shared this, and I'm not sure if you guys saw this or not, but it was especially someone I created a Trump promise tracker. And they broke it down to several categories, and I think it's perfect, absolutely perfect to analyze the president's first 100 days. So, according to the tracker, the president only achieved, and what you guys are seeing right now, if you're watching via video, is essentially just a smaller portion of that tracker. So it's not breaking down exactly what I'm talking about. But what we saw, according to this tracker, is that the president only achieved 8 out of his 29 100-day promises. 8 out of 29 of his 100-day promises. Now, and I say in these 100-day promises, if you don't understand it, these are the promises that he said he would essentially achieve. He said he would get these 29 things done in his first 100 days. He only got 8 achieved. He only achieved 8 of them. The remainder were marked as broken according to this tracker because he did not achieve them in the first 100 days. Now, I went through this list earlier today. And I first went over it yesterday. I started looking over it more in deeper today. And on the list, I see a lot of promises that the president did attempt. And I say give really good attempts, but the courts got in his way. They got in his way. So, like the cutting off funding for sanctuary cities. He said he was going to do that during the first 100 days. And he did. And I say did in a sort of partial sense. It was partially completed. He didn't break that promise in this normal fashion sense, in the sense that he just completely ignored it. He tried to get it done. He fought for it, but the court said no. And that happened time and time again. Now, and I'm not saying that the sanctuary cities ban or cutting off funding for sanctuary cities was a good idea, though I am saying that, or thinking it at least. Or the travel ban. The travel ban was another thing that he wasn't able to achieve in his first 100 days because it kept getting blocked by the courts. I'm not saying that was a good idea. But these are things that he gave serious attempts to, but were blocked by the courts. And the question I think we have to ask ourselves is, can you truly count that as a broken promise by the President of the United States? Because if this was Congress, the President has leeway, he is able to work with Congress, all that type of stuff, but the courts are non-negotiable. He has no power over the courts. He can't lobby the courts. Now he can plead his case through the Department of Justice, but he can't physically lobby the court and say, hey, change your decision because I have a promise to keep to the American people. They can't, they weigh on constitutionality, and I think the court has overstepped its bounds on some of these issues. But this isn't, I would not like to call these broken promises in the traditional sense that we use them politically. I think the president has truly tried his best to keep the promises that he made. Now, there are a lot, though, I will say this, that he chose to reverse his position on. He did try to reverse his position on, or did reverse his position on, a few different issues. He had said that he was going to get, a Supreme Court justice that was, now he did get Neil Gorsuch, there we go, to the Supreme Court, but he said he was going to choose a justice that was going to overturn same-sex marriage. He was going to get that done in the first 100 days. We all knew that there was no possible way he was going to get that done in the first 100 days. He did get the Supreme Court done in the first 100 days, but we knew no ruling on that. Just is impossible. Whether overturning is going to happen is one thing, but in the first 100 days was just way out there. But he reversed his position on this in an ABC interview, or was it ABC or 60 Minutes interview? It was an interview that he had done with Barbara Walters, I believe. I believe it was Barbara Walters. It was him and Mike Pence, and he actually said in the interview that he's not going to do it. He's going to leave it alone. It's been decided by the courts. So he did reverse his position on that. And that happened numerous times. But when we look at, did he announce that he was going to redo or renegotiate NAFTA? Yes, he did. Did he write an executive order that for every one new regulation, you got to get rid of two? Yes, he did. These are things that he did achieve. So on the 100 days, I'm going to give the president a C. But I'll give him a B for effort. Okay? But let's look at the economy. All right? The economy is looking great by almost all measures. Almost every single economic measurement that we have today, the economy is looking pretty good. In 2017, we saw average weekly wage growth at 2.8%. We saw GDP growth at an annual average of 3.2%. Unemployment is at 4.1%. Black unemployment is the lowest it's been in 17 years. 17 years, folks. It's the lowest it's been since Bill Clinton was president of these United States of America. So unemployment, overall unemployment, 4.1%. Black unemployment, lowest it's been in 17 years. 2.1 million jobs were created last year. That is definitely not an abysmal number. It's not a mediocre number. That's solid job growth. But let's see, it's actually, I will say this, 2.1 is actually a little bit less than what President Obama created in his final year in office. However, we have to look at where was Trump creating these jobs, because that goes to whether or not he was fighting for or fulfilling his campaign promises. Okay? So let's look at the job creation. In 2017, we added over 60,000 more construction jobs than we did in 2016. 60,000 more construction jobs. We added 196,000 manufacturing jobs in 2017. Nearly 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Can you believe that? That is astronomical. And it's even more amazing when you compare it to the fact that we lost 16,000 manufacturing jobs in 2016. Consumer confidence at the end of 2017 was up 16 points. 16 points. That is wow. Okay? Wow. 16 points. Because where we were at the end of 2016 was negative 10, according to Gallup. So Gallup had consumer confidence at negative 10 points at the end of 2016. And at the end of 2017, we were up 6. So we had a gain of 16 points. But we're right now in the positive. So these are all great numbers. And the news media has immediately shifted from talking about the demise of the Trump and Republican tax reform. Saying that, oh, if we pass these tax cuts, everyone pays more taxes. Which was ironic. A tax cut for everybody meant everybody was paying more money. But that's what everyone was saying. That's what everyone from MSNBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, everyone was saying it. But now, every headline from CNN to MSNBC to Al Jazeera again, Yahoo newsroom readers, all those news organizations are issuing headlines saying, expect to see larger paychecks in February. So clearly, we're seeing that these tax cuts are going to work. People are going to get more money in their pockets. And I will say this. I've seen comments on it. I saw someone say that, everyone, they're receiving, I think someone said they're receiving $150 extra a week in their paycheck. They're like, oh, it's only $150. Only $150? I mean, sure, if you're making $1,000 a week and you get $150, you know what that is? That's if you have a average car that's 4 tanks of gas. If you have a truck, that's probably only about two tanks of gas if you have a truck. But that's gas. If you're single, that's food. If you have kids, that pays for, we just started up the brand new semester. That helps you pay off if you racked up a nice little credit card bill because of back to school shopping for the new semester of school, getting some, spring clothes. That's clothing. Now, I'm not saying it's a heck of a lot of clothing, but go to H&M, hit that clearance rack, Get yourself 5 or 6 shirts, a couple pants. That's money. That is real money. Or better yet, that's $150 a week going into savings. And if you're getting paid, or sorry, let me say this. It's not a week. I keep saying that. It's not a week. It's a pay period. So we're talking about bi-weekly. So we're talking about that's $300 a month. That's $300 a month that you're putting in your savings accounts. On top of whatever you were saving already. Maybe you couldn't afford to get Netflix. Now you can. You know, like these are real dollars, okay? And when Nancy Pelosi says, oh, you know, the raises that people are getting and the bonuses, $1,000 bonus, oh, that's crumbs. Okay, Nancy. So this tax bill was a great Christmas present to the American people, and it was a great Christmas present to the President of the United States because it helped solidify his message of restoring consumer confidence in our economy. And if these numbers have anything to say about it, he absolutely did it. Okay? Apple announced that they're going to be investing billions of dollars, in part because of these tax cuts, here at home, creating thousands of jobs, they said. Apple. I believe the number was like $350 billion over 5 years. Come on, folks. I was listening to something. I was walking into a Chinese restaurant and they had the radio playing. And the folks were saying, you know, you got to acknowledge that these tax cuts are working. You just got to. Because it's the truth. These tax cuts are indeed working. But you don't have to say, I like the man now. No one's telling you that you have to fall in love with Donald Trump because of these tax cuts. No one's saying that. But you have to give the man his credit. You have to give the Republicans credit where it's due. I mean, how hard is it just to say, all right, yeah, I got a few dollars in my pocket. Thank you. Doesn't mean you got to go and become his best friend now. I mean, let's just be absolutely real here. You know, let's be real. But we're going to move past the economy because I believe overall in the economy, the president did a pretty good job in his first year. However, foreign policy spells a completely different story. The president had a very rocky first year. Some might even call it astonishingly bad. Some might even call it abysmal. This is because the president has been jumping from crisis to crisis, many of which have been of his own making. Taunting an unstable country with nuclear power. Retreating from the international stage at the United Nations, giving way for China and Russia to exert greater control and influence. Ostracizing our allies to the point where Europe states it will no longer look to the United States for guidance, but instead will forge its own destiny. Oh, and let's not forget a canceled state visit to Great Britain. Because the embassy deal we got was terrible, so we're going to cancel a state visit. Really? That's what happened? I mean, it's been one thing after another on foreign policy, and sometimes you sit there and your brain you're like, what's happening? Because there's one thing after another, and the president seems to still be heading in the same direction. We're now in year 2. We're in 2018. Tomorrow will be one whole year, but we're in the second year, essentially, of his presidency. And I can't help but ask myself, are we going to see any changes? Like, are we? Are we going to see any changes? And I don't know. I really don't. Now, I can't say I was pleased that he and Nikki Haley, really actually glad about Nikki Haley, but he and Nikki Haley didn't cower at the United Nations over the Israel condemnation vote. Okay? Condemning America for saying that they were going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We were condemned at the United Nations for it. And Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, the president, did not cower. They stood before, or Nikki Haley stood before the United Nations and said that we will remember this. We will remember those who voted with us, and we will remember those who voted against us. We will remember those who voted to violate America's sovereignty with this vote. That I admire the president for. And Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, any woman who needs a spirit animal, there you are. That Nikki Haley is one, I guess, boss of a woman. But even though I admire him already on this, and Nikki Haley, I can't help but acknowledge the fact that, of course, he was going to do this because it fits right into his narrative. America first. I said this during Foreign Policy Week, folks, a few months back. America cannot survive as the leader of the free world if the rest of the world does not want us to be it. So when we push our allies away, they will look towards somebody else. I say this time and time again. There is no form of socialism for power. If you give up power, someone else is going to pick it up. It doesn't just hang out somewhere. Like, oh, I'm not really feeling like I need to use this power. Let me toss it over here. But I'm going to keep it safekeeping. No one else can touch it. No, somebody's going to come and pick it up. Because people want power. That's how it works. It's how it gets picked up. But at the end of the day, these are just my opinions. These are the opinions from me, and I'm giving you stats from various government agencies. But what about the American people? CNN's Martin Savage went to go figure out how they were feeling about Trump's first year.
Anywhere you look in Youngstown are reminders of what's been lost. Factories, jobs, the city's population is down by almost 2/3 from the 1950s. The economy wasn't just disappearing here, so was a way of life.
And I realized that the core foundation of our country is slipping away.
I mean, it got to a point where I did not like the direction that my country was going.
The answer for many was Donald Trump. In 2016, according to the Mahoning County Board of Elections, approximately 7,000 registered Democrats switched parties to become Republicans.
He said he's going to make America first and he's going to bring jobs back.
Donald Trump said you're in lousy trade deals. We fix that, the jobs can come back.
Something that he said that really sticks with me is that he wants to give the power back to the American people, and that's something that I can certainly get behind.
I'm with a pastor, a stay-at-home mom, a student, a machine shop worker, and a union member. Democrats or raised in Democrat families who crossed over to vote Trump.
We're 1 year in. How's he doing?
Fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Great. Better than I ever would have dreamt. I mean that sincerely.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Derek?
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yes, he's doing wonderful. He's staying on task.
We start with a hot-button topic of the moment.
How big an issue to all of you is immigration?
Huge.
Huge.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In Youngstown, Ohio?
Absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, they're stealing jobs of rightful citizens.
It's also about something else Trump voters say is important: rules and respect.
I feel like when people come here illegally, that's just very disrespectful. You don't respect our laws, and you shouldn't be able to come here freewheeling like that.
A year later, they all still want the wall. As for the president's inflammatory tweets and speech, Gino says he used to cringe, not anymore.
So you don't cringe anymore because you've grown numb to it, or?
No, not numb at all. But I know what he's done, and I'm starting to get an inkling why he uses Twitter in the way he does. Because if all he had to rely on is what people say about him, oh my God, I might not like the guy, but I love the guy. I love the job he's doing.
Justice met Trump at a rally and says he's not a racist.
He was just the nicest person, and honestly, if he was a racist, as everyone paints him out to be, he could have just walked right past me and not even said a word.
What about the lies?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think he is a liar?
Do I think he's lied? No. Do I think he's fallen short in some of his goals? We all do.
Economically, they say things aren't getting better. The stock market and their home values are up.
Industries are booming. Everywhere I've seen.
I look around here, I don't see a boom.
Well, in this area, no, but I feel like there's small businesses that are starting to pick up.
Derek says Trump's tax reform will fuel the recovery.
If you expand your business in the inner city, so then my community will benefit from this tax cut.
Do you think the media gives the president a fair shake?
I don't think so at all.
No.
1 year later, these voters couldn't be happier. They see achievement. Most of all, they see a president like them.
And he's like tenacious sometimes and says stuff off the cuff like we do, like real Americans do. You know, we're not perfect. I'm tired of suave. I'm tired of polished. I'm tired of the teleprompter. You know, I am. I want my country back.
That's just how the economy works. So, but I'm going to take a break from here. Before I go to break, have you seen this?
It's sort of like this. Someone goes into your house, takes your wife and children hostage, and then says, let's negotiate over the price of your house. You know, we could do the same thing on immigration. We believe strongly in immigration reform. We could say we're shutting down the government. We're not going to raise the debt ceiling until you pass immigration reform. It would be governmental chaos.
Shutting down government is drastic. We, in our caucus this morning, had read to us by our ranking member, Nita Lowey, all the things that will happen if they shut down government, who are affected in terms of our veterans, who are affected in terms of children and nutrition. It is a stunning array.
It was a hard line saying, unless I get my way, I'm going to shut the government down. I'm going to risk default for the nation. Now, anyone can do that. I believe in immigration reform. What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down? I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis.
They really want to shut down government, and this is really shameful.
Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Nancy Pelosi. It's a policy of idiocy. So, welcome back, officially. The government shutdown is still looming over us. We have not heard a single thing. Right now, it is 7:58 p.m., and we are not hearing anything. Like I said at the very beginning of the program, we know that Senator Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, has announced that he is going to, or that he set a vote for 10 p.m. tonight to vote on the House's continuing resolution. We know this. That's what's happening. And we know that the president had a meeting earlier today, just a couple hours ago, with Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader. And nothing. They said that, there was a little something, but there wasn't a lot going on. Or that they still had major disagreements. And so we know what that means. That is code for, we don't have anything yet. We don't have anything yet. And what they're looking for is someone to grease the wheels. That's what's happening. Someone's always trying to grease the wheels. So let's dive into the shutdown. Let's figure out how exactly we got here. Because I was asked earlier why I used the hashtag Schumer shutdown in my promo for tonight's episode. Okay? Why would I want to feed into the partisan divide facing our country? Great question. My answer is, I'm not. I didn't say the Democrats. I didn't call it the Democrats shutdown. And I didn't say the Democrats were the cause. That's not what I put in that promo. And tonight I'm prepared to lay out how exactly we got here. There's plenty of blame to go around. But let's not kid ourselves in saying that Chuck Schumer's decision to attach DACA, the DACA issue, to keeping the government open. Let's not kid ourselves in saying that his decision to do that isn't the reason, the main reason why we are here where we are today. Why right now, the clock next to me, the clock sitting on your screen, shows that we are only 3 hours and change away from the government, the federal government, being shut down and costing the United States economy billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, if not hundreds of thousands of jobs, depending on how long it goes for. Hurting tourists, hurting our military, hurting government contractors who will never see a cent for the services rendered, which equals more job losses. So let's not pretend that Chuck Schumer is not the main reason why we got here. Because I'm not going to blame it on Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi may have supported the shutdown or whatever. I'm not going to put it on her because the House passed a stupid continuing resolution to fund the government for another month. So even if Nancy wasn't fully on board or was on board with the shutdown, she's irrelevant because the House did their part. She's in the House. She's irrelevant now to the conversation. Chuck Schumer is the one leading the charge. You heard him on the tape, folks. He said, I'm a big fan of immigration reform. I support it. But I would never shut down the government over it. It's reckless. It's irresponsible. It's blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. All the true things. He's absolutely right. But he's doing it today. That's what he's doing right now. He's holding this government hostage. Time after time, he has been presented with an ability to fund this government. And he has convinced, he said, what if I convince my caucus to, you are convincing your caucus to do it. He has convinced the Democratic caucus in the Senate to vote against a spending bill that would keep the government open. All over DACA. People want to go ahead and put, the CHIP legislation, or the CHIP insurance, children's health insurance. They want to say, that's partially. No. Because the continuing resolution covers that. It funds it for a month. And yes, like I said, it's a stupid continuing resolution. We need a budget. But we're not going to get anywhere because Chuck Schumer refuses to accept anything that doesn't have a clear-cut decision that we are going to protect dreamers. And you know what's funny? People always talk about Republicans being on the wrong side of history. Polling shows that Americans do not support shutting down the government over the Dreamer issue, over DACA. A majority of Americans believe this. The only people this really matters to are hardcore Democrats. President Trump said that this whole issue doesn't even become relevant until March, because that's when he plans on rescinding the executive order. It's January. You still have time, but you want to shut down the government in January over something that can be done at the deadline in March? Come on. Come on. Let's be real here, folks. People want to try and blame it on Trump, saying, let's show a tweet that the president had, or interview he had on Fox News saying, if a government shutdown happens, no one's going to remember Chuck Schumer or the Senate Minority Leader, the Senate Majority Leader, the House Majority Leader, the Speaker of the House. They're going to say the shutdown happened under the president, which means it is the blame goes to the president. I could care less. Because, yeah, he's right. In historic terms, we don't tend to look at it from the specific policy. We look at it was the president. Who was the president during the time of the government shutdown? So, yes, that's right. But doesn't mean that's the realistic person to put the blame on. That's not true. And, yes, as I say, there's blame to go around. But it all started with Chuck Schumer. It all started with him. But yes, so let's go through the process, okay? Spending bill. Chuck Schumer announces that the Democrats will not vote on the spending bill, on funding the federal government, unless they can come to a deal with Republicans on DACA. That began this all. Okay? That's what set this whole crazy ride in commencement, or beginning. That's what began it. Then, President Trump said, fine. You won't vote unless we deal with DACA. Let's deal with DACA, okay? So we're going to deal with DACA. If we can agree on the terms, I'll sign into law a clean DACA bill. Okay? That's what he said initially. Now, of course, we are here today because once Trump said that, everyone lost their freaking minds and said, oh my gosh, Mr. President, you can't sign a clean DACA bill. Not without, of course, getting the wall. You got to get the wall, Mr. President. That's your crowning achievement. That's what you need to go back to the voters in the midterms. We say we built the wall. So you got to go back and you got to tell them, you're not going to sign DACA unless you get the wall. And then he was like, okay, fine. Okay, fine. I'll go back and I'll do the wall. So he goes back and tells them, no wall, no DACA, no spending bill. So Democrats are like, well, we're not giving you the wall. And like, okay, fine. I'm going to go tell General Kelly that he said no wall. And I'll calm him down. Because he wants the wall. I don't really want the wall. And he goes back. General Kelly says, Mr. President, you need the wall. Then, here comes knocking on the White House front door, my senator, good old guy himself, Senator David Perdue. Mr. President, I need you to not just get the wall, but we need to go ahead and get this whole immigration thing just settled right immediately. No chain migration. Change it to a merit-based system. We need to get rid of all of this before we do anything with DACA. You're right. You're so right. You're totally right, David. I don't know what I was thinking. Merit-based, no chain migration, then wall, then DACA, then spending bill. And now, we're stuck because Trump has now promised to the Republicans that he's going to get done the wall and immigration reform. Then, he promised the Democrats that he's going to get DACA done. Then, all of that is to get the spending bill done. You see how we got here, folks? So like I said, there's enough blame to go around. Everyone's hands are dirty, but this never would have began. We would have been having a much simpler situation if Chuck Schumer had not attached the stipulation of DACA. It's simple, just following the timeline. Where did it begin? When you find out where it began, then you can find out what we could have done to stop it. That's what we could have done. That's what I'm doing right now. So for anyone who says that, oh, this is the Republican shutdown because the Republicans are a majority, no, that is not what's happening here. This is, yes, in totality, a government shutdown with everyone's hands on the trigger, getting ready to shoot the budget dead in the head. Everyone's hands on the trigger. But, you know who bought the gun? Chuck Schumer. That's who bought the gun. So remember that. Right now, we are sitting at 3 hours and 49 minutes. 3 hours and 49 minutes until the federal government shuts down. And all the gains that we got in 2017, we're going to see in January, everything go up, 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 up. And then when you look at the whole year, you just get that little dip, that nice little dip there. That's what you're going to see. So, who do I blame for the government shutdown? I blame everybody. But who am I most upset at? Chuck Schumer. I think that is a fair analysis of the situation. Like I said, everyone has done a little bit of something, but this would never have begun. This never would have happened if Chuck Schumer hadn't attached this bill. But that's all the time that we have for today. So pay attention. I'll be updating the Facebook page throughout the night, figuring out, with any news about the government shutdown. But make sure to tune in Fridays at 7:30. I'll be here next Friday, hopefully with a special guest, a friend of mine. He'll be on the program with me to talk about whatever happens. If the shutdown's still going on, maybe we'll talk about that. But that's what we're going to have the show next Friday at 7:30 as usual. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure if you want to buy some gear, go to GarrisonDouglas.com. And go to the store, and there's a lot of cool gear we have out there. We have T-shirts, we have hoodies. It's still cold outside for a lot of you, so if you want to have a hoodie to wear around the house, go ahead and order one. They're really nice hoodies. They're really comfortable. I think I'm going to try and order one. I'm going to get one I'm going to wear one on the show to show you guys. They're pretty nice hoodies, but. Go to the website, pick a couple up if you want. Buy one for your mama, buy one for your brother. If if you're in your college dorm room, we know those get drafty. I know I've experienced it myself. So, yeah. Well, that's it for tonight. I'll see you all right back here on Friday. You're watching The Garrison Douglas Show.